There's something powerful, almost unspoken, that every woman longs for. It's not always flowers, it's not the vacations, and it's definitely not just the compliments. It's a feeling, a rare, magnetic, unforgettable feeling. The feeling of being safe. A woman blossoms when she feels emotionally safe. She opens up, she leans in, she softens, not because she's weak, but because she's finally in a space where she doesn't have to be hard. And that safety doesn't come from money. It doesn't come from charm. It comes from you, your consistency, your tone, the way you listen, not just to respond, but to understand. She loves when your words match your actions, when she doesn't have to guess how you feel or wonder if your mood will change with the wind. She loves when you make her feel seen, like you're not just looking at her, but into her, past the surface, into the places she hides from the world. She loves when you remember the things she thought you forgot, when you hear what she didn't say, when you slow down enough to notice what's beneath her silence. Because here's the truth, every woman is asking a silent question. Can I be all of me with you? And when your presence answers that question with a calm yes, when she knows she doesn't have to shrink, pretend, or perform, you've given her the feeling, not just the one she wants, the one she needs. And when you give her that, she'll never forget it. When it comes to relationships, most people talk about love, attraction, chemistry, or compatibility. But what often gets left out of the conversation is emotional safety, the invisible foundation that everything else rests on. Without it, no amount of physical attraction, deep conversation, or grand gestures can hold a relationship together for long. Emotional safety is not a luxury, it's a necessity. For a woman, emotional safety is where she thrives. It's the condition that allows her to breathe freely in your presence, to let her guard down without fear of being judged, dismissed, or misunderstood. Emotional safety isn't about being perfect. It's about being consistent, intentional, and trustworthy. It's about creating a space where she feels protected, not just from harm, but from the emotional turbulence that often comes when people are careless with their words, their energy, or their intentions. It's not always what you say that makes her feel safe. It's what you don't say when she's vulnerable. It's the restraint you show when you could mock, when you could criticize, when you could use her softness as a weapon, but you choose not to. Instead, you choose compassion. You choose presence. You choose maturity. Emotional safety is about her knowing she can express herself without it being used against her later. It's about knowing that her tears won't be called drama, her silence won't be misinterpreted as attitude, and her overthinking won't be labeled as insecurity. It's about knowing that her emotions, even when they're messy or inconvenient, are still valid, still welcome, and still respected. This kind of safety doesn't come from saying, "You can trust me." It comes from proving it, over time, in the quiet, unnoticed moments. When you remember what she said in passing 3 weeks ago, when you notice she's off and ask her what's on her mind instead of brushing it off, when you choose to sit in uncomfortable conversations rather than escape them, that's when she starts to feel safe. Emotional safety is felt when she knows that being herself won't push you away, that if she reveals her fears, her past, her flaws, you won't see her as less. You won't withdraw, you won't change. She feels safe when your response isn't to fix her, but to hold space for her. When you aren't trying to win the argument, but to understand her point of view. When you value the connection more than your ego. Many men are taught to be providers, protectors, and leaders. But the greatest form of protection you can offer a woman is emotional. When she knows that her heart is safe with you, not just her body, not just her secrets, but her entire emotional world, that's when she feels deeply connected. And here's the truth, emotional safety isn't loud. It doesn't always look impressive from the outside. But inside, it's everything. It's the calm in her storm. It's the pause before she reacts. It's the silence that feels comforting instead of awkward. It's the freedom to speak without overthinking every word. It's the difference between, "I'm fine," and, "Can I tell you something that's hard for me to say?" You build this kind of safety through emotional intelligence, through self-awareness, through accountability, through listening more than you speak, through validating her experience without trying to control it or minimize it, through showing up, especially when it's inconvenient. Because emotional safety is not created in the easy moments, it's revealed in the hard ones. She will notice how you respond when she's not her best self. She will remember how you treated her when she had nothing to offer. She will feel safest with the one who sees her, Not just the polished version, not just the parts that are easy to love, but the whole of her, and still chooses to stay present. Emotional safety allows her to go deeper, to connect more fully, to open without hesitation, to trust not just your words, but your energy, your silence, your tone, your presence. Emotional safety is the soil where intimacy grows. It's the difference between surviving in love and thriving in it. It's the answer to why she pulls away or leans in. It's not about having the right lines or making the right moves. It's about how she feels in your presence, especially when she's at her most uncertain, most emotional, most raw. Consistency is one of those quiet qualities that doesn't always get the praise it deserves. It's not flashy. It's not dramatic. It's not the thing that grabs attention in the beginning. But over time, it becomes the reason someone stays. The reason someone believes in you. The reason someone feels safe letting their guard down. For a woman, especially one who's been let down before, consistency is everything. It's easy to show up once, to say all the right things, to give compliments, make promises, and present the best version of yourself when everything is new and exciting. But consistency asks a different question. Can you show up even when it's no longer convenient? Can you still be thoughtful, still be present, still be kind, even when no one is watching and nothing is being rewarded? Trust doesn't come from grand gestures, it comes from repeated proof. It's built in the small, ordinary moments. When you say you'll call, and you do. When you check in because you remembered she had a big meeting. When you don't just say, I care, but you actually follow through in the ways that matter to her. Consistency is reliability in motion. It's what turns potential into reality, words into belief, attraction into love. For many women, inconsistency is a red flag, not just because it's disappointing, but because it's confusing. One moment, everything feels aligned. The next, you're cold, distant, preoccupied. That emotional whiplash creates anxiety. It makes her second guess everything, what she said, what she did, what she felt. And slowly, she starts to doubt not just you, but herself. That's the quiet damage inconsistency does. It creates a space where she's no longer sure what version of you she's going to get. And when she's unsure about that, she begins to protect herself. She holds back. She stops sharing. She becomes cautious, not because she's closed off, but because she no longer feels secure. Consistency is clarity. It's the steady rhythm that makes her feel grounded. It says, you don't have to wonder if I'll show up tomorrow because I'm showing you today. It's not about being perfect. It's about being predictable in the right ways. It's not about being emotionally available 24/7, but when you are present, you're genuinely there. You don't disappear for days, then return with excuses. You don't create doubt with silence and expect reassurance in return. What many people don't realize is that consistency is a form of intimacy. It's emotional loyalty. When your energy stays the same, whether you're in a good mood or not, when your intentions are clear, whether things are exciting or mundane, that's when a woman relaxes. That's when she stops trying to read between the lines. That's when she stops overthinking. Because now she knows what to expect from you. It doesn't mean there won't be mistakes. It doesn't mean there won't be moments of distance or struggle. But what consistency does is create a foundation strong enough to hold those moments without crumbling. Because if your presence is consistent, then even when your words are few, they carry weight. Even when things get hard, your actions still speak. And it's important to know that consistency isn't just about the good days. It's especially about how you show up when life gets heavy. When you're tired, frustrated, or unsure, that's when consistency is tested. Anyone can be emotionally present when everything is going well. But when your life is chaotic and you still make her feel prioritized, not just with big declarations, but with the effort to communicate, to be thoughtful, to be gentle, that's when she begins to trust you with her deeper layers. Because consistency tells her she doesn't have to brace for emotional turbulence every time something shifts. It tells her she's not loving alone, that she's not building connection with someone whose intentions change with the wind. It tells her she's not temporary, not an option, not a backup plan. She's valued, not just in your words, but in your habits, your energy, your patterns. There's a difference between being looked at and being seen, a difference between being listened to and being truly heard. And for a woman, that difference means everything. Most women go through life being observed, admired, even desired, but not many can say they've been deeply seen. Not for their bodies, not for what they can offer, but for their thoughts, their emotions, their inner world. Being seen and heard is not about attention. It's about understanding. it's about connection. It's about feeling acknowledged in a way that doesn't require explanation or performance. It's about knowing that someone is paying attention, not just to what you say, but to what you mean, not just to your words, but to the pauses in between, the sighs, the shifts in energy, the stories behind your silence. For many women, this kind of presence is rare. They've been in conversations where their words were tolerated, but not absorbed, where their feelings were brushed aside, or quickly fixed, or even invalidated with a smile. They've learned to hold things in, to water themselves down, to speak in softer tones so they're not labeled too much. They've learned that their emotions are often inconvenient to others. So when a man comes along who listens without interrupting, who doesn't rush to solve but simply holds space, it feels different. It feels safe. It feels nourishing. To be heard is to be met in the middle of your vulnerability and not asked to shrink. To be seen is to be loved in the moments where you aren't trying to impress anyone. It's when someone notices the effort behind the effort, the strength behind the softness, the fight behind the smile. She feels seen when you remember the details she thought you missed, when you circle back to something she said a week ago, not because it was important to you, but because it clearly mattered to her. She feels heard when you ask questions, not just to respond, but to understand her better. When you don't just say, "I hear you," but your actions reflect what she's been trying to communicate all along. Being seen and heard also means being accepted, not edited, not improved, not managed. It means her emotions aren't too big, her dreams aren't too ambitious, and her sensitivity isn't a weakness. It's in the way you let her show up fully, whether she's joyful, anxious, expressive, or quiet. And you don't try to mold her into what's more convenient for you. You let her be, and in doing so, she begins to trust that she's safe enough to be more of herself. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is, "I get it." Not because you've lived it, but because you care enough to try. Empathy isn't about knowing exactly what someone feels. It's about making space for what they feel to exist. She's not always looking for advice. She's looking for presence. Someone who won't talk over her discomfort. Someone who won't dismiss what she's carrying with humor or logic or silence. Someone who can sit with the mess and not run. And it's not just in conversation, it's in your gaze, your posture, your tone. Do you make eye contact when she speaks? Do you put down your phone when she opens up? Do you nod not just with your head, but with your energy? Are you available or just present? Because women can tell the difference. She knows when your body is there, but your attention is somewhere else. And when that happens enough, she stops opening up. Being seen and heard is about being valued for who she is, not what she does. It's about making her feel like her voice has weight, even when it trembles. It's about creating a space where she doesn't have to compete with your distractions, or your ego, or your assumptions. A space where her truth doesn't need to be pretty to be respected. There is a subtle, yet deeply painful truth many women carry, the feeling that they must earn love, that they must perform a version of themselves softer, quieter, more accommodating, to be accepted, that their value lies in what they give, how well they behave, how low they can keep their needs. This is why affirmation, when given without requiring performance, hits so differently. It's not just comforting, it's healing. To affirm a woman without making her prove herself is to tell her you are enough. Not because you cooked, not because you were easy to love that day, not because you kept the peace, held back your opinion, or stayed agreeable, but simply because you exist and your presence is valuable all on its own. So many women move through life with the quiet burden of proving their worth. In relationships, it often looks like overcompensating, doing more, giving more, being more, just to feel seen. It looks like earning affection through acts of service, emotional labor, patience, even silence. And though she may not say it, she's often silently asking, "Do I matter when I'm not doing anything for you?" That question lives deep inside her. And your answer, whether spoken or not, becomes a mirror for how she sees herself. When you only compliment her when she looks her best, she starts to believe beauty is her only value. When you only praise her when she's nurturing, selfless, and emotionally giving, she starts to believe love is something she has to constantly work for. But when you affirm her in the quiet moments, in her mess, in her tiredness, in her ordinary states, you offer something far more lasting than attention. You offer security. Affirmation without performance says, "I see your effort, but I love you beyond it." It says, "You don't have to earn your place in my life every day." It's in how you hold her when she's emotionally drained. It's in how you reassure her when she's doubting herself. It's in how you speak to her when she has nothing left to give. When she knows that she is still cherished, even when she's unfiltered, uncertain, or undone, that's when her soul exhales. And it's important to realize that affirmation isn't about flattery. It's not exaggerated praise. It's not compliments wrapped in expectations. It's about recognition. It's about witnessing her fully and letting her know that her existence, just as she is already meaningful. It's about offering appreciation that isn't tied to outcomes. Not, thank you for cooking, but I appreciate the love you put into this. Not, you're beautiful when you wear that, but you're beautiful because of how you carry your energy. Always, a woman wants to feel that she's loved not just for the roles she plays, girlfriend, wife, mother, supporter, but for the essence beneath those roles. She wants to feel free to rest without guilt, to be still without fear of fading from relevance. She wants to know that her value doesn't disappear when she's no longer performing according to what the world expects. This kind of affirmation builds a deeper connection, because when a woman no longer feels the pressure to prove herself, she opens up. She becomes more emotionally available, more honest, more radiant in her presence. Not because she's trying to be impressive, but because she feels safe enough to be real. Your ability to affirm her when she feels least worthy is what builds the strongest trust. Not when she's glowing, but when she's questioning herself. Not when she's achieving, but when she's exhausted. When you remind her that she is still loved in those moments, without needing to be perfect, pleasant, or productive, you give her something rare. You give her a relationship where her worth is not conditional, and her love doesn't have to be a performance. It's easy to believe that love is measured in gifts. How much you spend, what you give, how often you surprise her with something new. But ask any woman who has ever felt emotionally alone in a relationship, and she will tell you the most expensive gifts can't compensate for the absence of presence. The dinners, the jewelry, the flowers, they're beautiful, yes. But without you fully showing up, they start to feel hollow. Because what many women crave isn't just a wrapped box. It's being wrapped in undivided attention. It's the rare experience of being with someone who is truly there, not just physically, but emotionally, mentally, spiritually. A man who listens with his eyes, one who puts his phone away, not just out of politeness, but out of genuine interest. One who pays attention to the small shifts in her energy and chooses to lean in, not walk away. Presence is being with her, not just around her. It's the quality of your attention when she speaks. It's the patience you offer when she can't quite find the words to explain what she's feeling. It's the softness in your voice when she's having a hard day. And more than anything, it's your ability to stay fully when things aren't easy, smooth, or romantic. Many women have been in situations where their love languages were misunderstood. She said she wanted quality time, and he heard that as just being in the same room. But presence is not proximity. It's not enough to sit next to her while your mind is somewhere else. She can feel when you've checked out. She can sense when she's talking and you're hearing the words, but not receiving them. And over time, that emotional absence creates distance far greater than any physical one. Presents are appreciated, yes, but presence says something different. It says, you matter more than my distractions. It says, I choose to be here with you fully because you're not just a part of my life. You are someone I want to connect with deeply. Presence communicates love in its purest, quietest form. It's felt in the pauses, the eye contact, the way you put effort into making space for her thoughts, her emotions, her essence. And presence doesn't require a perfect script. You don't need the right words all the time. You don't need grand solutions. What she wants most is for you to be emotionally available, to notice when her mood shifts, to ask thoughtful questions, not to fix her, but to understand her, to reach for her hand when she pulls away, to sit with her in the silence and make it feel safe. Presence is intentional. It means slowing down. It means choosing not to escape to work, your phone, your friends, or your routine when she needs your heart the most. It means recognizing that your time is valuable and offering it generously, not as an obligation, but as a gift in itself. Because time, when given mindfully, becomes one of the most powerful expressions of love. It's not always about doing something. Sometimes it's about just being there when she needs to talk, being patient when she needs to cry, being steady when she's overwhelmed. Presence means you are with her, not waiting for her to finish so you can move on to something else. And she can feel the difference. She knows when you're offering your time versus your attention, when you're staying physically present but emotionally distant. And when that happens repeatedly, no amount of gifts can repair the growing emotional gap. Because what makes her feel loved isn't how well you can shop, but how well you can show up. Not what you put in her hand, but how you hold her heart when it's heavy. Not how often you surprise her with things, but how consistently you make her feel seen when she's not asking for anything at all. At the heart of it all, women are not looking for perfection, they're looking for presence, intention, and emotional depth. They love the feeling of being emotionally safe, where they don't have to tiptoe around vulnerability. They crave consistency, not in grand gestures, but in small, reliable actions that build trust. Being seen and heard is more than just conversation. It's being witnessed, understood, and accepted without condition. They long for affirmation that isn't earned through performance, but given freely as a reflection of their worth. And above all, they value your presence over your presence. Your time, your attention, your ability to be there in moments when words aren't even necessary. When you give a woman this feeling of being emotionally secure, fully accepted, deeply understood, and genuinely prioritized, you're not just loving her, you're giving her a space to breathe, to soften, to be her truest self. And in return, she'll offer you a depth of love that is calm, fierce, loyal, and nurturing. Because the feeling she desires most isn't built through performance or pressure, it's built through the quiet, steady language of connection. Give her that, and you give her a reason to stay, grow, and love you from a place that's real,